Okay, picture this. You've got a pounding headache, maybe a nagging back pain, or a fever that just crept up out of nowhere. You go to the medicine cabinet, you open it up, and there they are. Two of the most common go-to remedies on the planet. But which one do you grab?
I mean, on the surface, they seem pretty much the same, right? And while they both can definitely tackle pain and fever, the way they work inside your body is fundamentally different. And making the right choice, it's not just about feeling better faster, it's about picking the smartest, safest option for what's actually going on. So let's figure this out.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get right to the single biggest difference between them. Then, we'll look at how they each actually work. We'll talk about how your body processes them, liver versus kidneys, which is super important. After that, we'll get practical and figure out which to choose for what. And finally, we'll wrap up with the safety rules you just can't ignore.
Okay, let's dive right in with the basics. What do these two have in common? And what's that one critical thing that separates them? The one thing that really changes the whole game?
Well, both acetaminophen and ibuprofen are absolute rock stars at two main things. Got some general pain, like a headache or some minor ache? Yep, both are great. Trying to bring down a fever? Again, both of them get the job done. And this is exactly why we so often think they're interchangeable. But, and this is a big but, they're not.
And here it is. This is the absolute key. Only ibuprofen fights inflammation. That's the single most important thing to burn into your brain. Acetaminophen, it doesn't have those anti-inflammatory powers, and that one fact is the secret to understanding everything else. You know, inflammation, that redness, that swelling, the heat you feel when you sprain your ankle, ibuprofen goes right after that.
Okay, so now that we know the what, let's pop the hood and get into the how. How do these little pills actually make the pain stop?
So first up, we've got acetaminophen, which, you probably know as Tylenol. Its official titles are Analgesic, which is just a fancy word for pain reliever, and antipyretic, which means it reduces fever.
But what's really cool is how it works. See, acetaminophen is all about the central command. It doesn't go to the source of the pain, like your stubbed toe. Instead, it works up in your brain and nervous system to basically turn down the volume on the pain signals. It tells your brain, hey, maybe it doesn't hurt that much.
Now, on the other side of the ring, we have ibuprofen. Think Advil or Motrin. It's in a totally different club called NSAIDs. That stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And that name, well, it gives the whole game away, doesn't it? Its superpower is right there in the title. So unlike acetaminophen working in the brain, ibuprofen is like a first responder right at the scene of the injury. When you get hurt, your body releases these chemicals called prostaglandins. Think of them as tiny little alarm bells that cause swelling and pain. Well, ibuprofen comes in and just blocks them, stopping the problem right at the source.
Okay, so they work differently, and that means your body has to handle them differently. And this next part, you guys, is so important for using them safely. It all comes down to two of your most important organs, your liver and your kidneys.
For acetaminophen, its journey through your body comes to an end in the liver. Your liver is the main processing plant here. It's doing all the heavy lifting, breaking down the drug and filtering it out.
And that leads us to a really serious warning. If you take more than the recommended dose, you can literally overwhelm your liver. It just can't keep up, and that can lead to severe, sometimes permanent liver damage. This is why those dosage instructions on the bottle, they aren't just suggestions, they are essential. Now let's switch gears to ibuprofen. It's a different story. Instead of the liver, it's your kidneys that are doing most of the work to process and filter it out of your body. So you've got a clear difference here, and that means a different set of safety rules.
And because your kidneys are doing all that work, if you already have kidney problems, you have to be really careful with ibuprofen. It can put extra strain on them and maybe make things worse. So if you know you have kidney issues, this is one you definitely want to be cautious with or even avoid.
All right, theory time is over. We know what they are, how they work, and where they get processed. Now for the part you've been waiting for. Which one do you actually pick? Let's run through some common situations.
Okay, first up, you're burning up with a fever and you just want it to break. What's the best call?
Well, for adults, it's pretty much a tie. The research shows both acetaminophen and ibuprofen work just about equally well. But for children, there's a little twist. Studies suggest ibuprofen often has a slight edge. It can work a little better and might last a bit longer for kids.
Next up, a type of pain that can be really intense, menstrual cramps. Is there a clear winner here? Oh, yeah, for sure. Remember those little troublemaker chemicals, the prostaglandins, that cause inflammation? They are a huge part of why cramps are so painful. Since ibuprofen's whole job is to block those guys, it's often way more effective at giving you relief.
What about that classic throbbing headache that's just ruining your day? This is probably one of the top reasons we reach for a pain reliever.
So for headaches, acetaminophen is often the recommended first choice. And here's why. A lot of common headaches aren't actually caused by inflammation. Plus, since ibuprofen can sometimes be a little rough on the stomach, acetaminophen is generally considered a safer bet, especially for people who get headaches pretty frequently.
And finally, let's talk about those muscle aches. You know, that sharp pain in your lower back or that awful kink in your neck.
In this case, the choice is usually pretty clear. Most of that kind of pain is caused by, you guessed it, inflammation in the muscles. So because ibuprofen is the anti-inflammatory specialist, it gets right to the root of the problem and will often give you much better relief. So now you have the playbook to make a really strategic choice. But no matter which one you pick, using it safely is absolutely the most important thing. So let's finish up with 3 golden rules. First, and this is totally non-negotiable, never go above the maximum daily dose on the package. Sticking to that limit is the #1 way you protect your liver and kidneys. Second, you have to be a bit of a detective. Acetaminophen and ibuprofen are kind of sneaky. They can be hidden ingredients in cold and flu medicine, even sleep aids. Always check the active ingredients so you don't accidentally double dose. And finally, the biggest rule of all, if you're ever unsure about anything, or if you have other health conditions, just talk to your doctor or pharmacist. They're there to help.
So there you have it. The choice isn't just a guess anymore. Is your pain coming with swelling and redness? Ibuprofen is probably your friend. Is it a fever or a headache without inflammation? Acetaminophen might be a better fit. By understanding how they work, you're now totally empowered to make a smarter, safer choice. You're in control.